Did you know that the godfather of funk, Mr. George Clinton himself of Parliament Funkadelic, is in a decades-long legal battle over the rights to his own music catalog? Let's get into it. Mr. George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic. As you can see here, he is filed a lawsuit, looks like in the United States District Court of the Northern District of Florida, where he's suing this guy, Boladian and Bridgeport Music, Inc., Westbound Records, 9 Records, Southfield Music, Eastbound Records. All of these people, all of these business entities look like who George Clinton is suing over the rights of his music catalog. Now, if you get into the complaint here that he filed, he's asking for a jury trial. You get into the complaint, George Clinton is suing these people because he said they got 90% of his music catalog and ownership rights and he doesn't have any, which, as he's alleging, has cost him tens of millions of dollars, and so he wants to, basically get that money back for his generational wealth. But if you get into it, this is a very, very interesting case. First of all, for some people who don't know who that might be, some of the younger people who are not familiar with George Clinton. George Clinton, wow, he's a legendary music performer. Some of the craziest hits that you probably can think of has been really, really big and has been sampled a lot by many, many, many hip hop artists over the years. He is known for some of the biggest hits throughout the late 1960s, early 70s, and even to this day, some people still play his music up until today. And but right now, he's alleging in this lawsuit here that we're going to look at that he has not maintained or even had the ownership of rights to his music due to alleged several causes of action that we're going to get into here. But he is definitely one of the prominent figures in music history since the late 1960s. He and his group, Parliament Funkadelic, huge people. But if you look at his lawsuit here, right? Let's get into his lawsuit here. It says that he authored songs like Flashlight. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that. That was actually released in 1977. Mothership Connection, Star Child on the Parliament album in 1975. I'd Rather Be With You of Bootsy Collins' Rubber Band album in 1976. Not Just Knee Deep on the Funkadelic album in 1969. And Atomic Dog. I'm sure many people have heard of the Atomic Dog song on the George Clinton album in 1982. Some of these songs are some of the most sampled songs in U.S. history. Now, it's important to understand that sampling is something that I'll talk about in a minute here, but when you own, when you create some sort of intellectual property, songs, books, movies, what have you, you get them copywritten, and there's a certain way you do that, and I'll explain it in another video. But once you have them copywritten, it's yours, and you have the exclusive right as the owner of the copyrights to reproduce it and perform it as much as you like. And if anybody else wants to use it, they have to get your permission. I can't just take someone's movie or book idea or a song idea and literally just take their lyrics or take their scripts or what have you, the intellectual properties, and then use it for my own benefit without getting their permission first. That's called licensing. And so you definitely want to get that done first. And so George Clinton here is alleging that he never owned it and due to some fraudulent activity. Let's go through the allegations real quick so you can see what George is talking about. Okay, it says, following his initial worldwide success in 1967, the defendants who he's suing have developed a decades-long scheme of defrauding Clinton and several artists like Clinton. This scheme involved, here are the allegations. This scheme involves seeking out Clinton and developing business relationships with the young new artist, fraudulently acquiring rights to Clinton's catalog, adding fictitious songwriters to dilute Clinton's share in songwriters' royalties that the BMI would typically allocate to songwriters, collecting royalties from Clinton's catalog while fraudulently denying Clinton tens of millions of dollars of royalties to which he is owed, signing agreements on behalf of Clinton without his knowledge or express consent, retaining millions of dollars in licensing fees, royalties, and monies. 6, failing to provide required accounting of royalties owed to Clinton per industry standard. And last but not least, by suing other producers and artists who sampled songs to which defendant fraudulently acquired. Now, let me just tell you that basically here, remember, these are all allegations, and we'll get into how Bridgeport's lawyer is responded. They haven't answered the lawsuit yet in court, but they did put a statement out to the press, and I'll talk about that in a second. But let me just tell you that when it comes to sampling music or licensing, whoever owns it has the right to make a claim if somebody uses said copyright without the permission. And according to this, that last one that we read, the last cause of action, it says that the defendants, which is that Armin Boladian person and all those business entities that were listed below, that they sued several defendants, several artists over using George Clinton's music. But if they're the owners, then they can have that right. George Clinton is alleging here in his lawsuit that no, they got rights through fraudulent means by forging my name, taking credit, and not giving me a full accounting, all these things. Now, I want to show you what the lawyer for Bridgeport is saying. Now, like I said, he hasn't answered the lawsuit yet, but he did make this statement. He said in the statement that he's reporting here is that Richard Bush, a lawyer for Boladian, said he will move to dismiss the complaint and seek sanctions. The lawyer also added that this is just the latest in a series of lawsuits that Mr. Clinton has filed against Bridgeport and Armin Boladian over the last 30 years, raising the same exact issues, and he has lost every time. Now, that's the lawyer for the defendants saying that, hey, this has been going on for years. Clinton has sued us several times. He's lost in the past several times, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go back and we're going to file an answer alleging the same thing. Like, he does not own. There was no fraud. He's going to basically counter all of these arguments that George Clinton is making in his complaint. This is very, very interesting because being a pioneer in the music industry like George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, if they're having problems with ownership rights, what are the other smaller artists having? You know, this is something that can be really looked into. You hear certain things about the music business, and you hear certain things about what certain artists go through about their deals. And I spoke about that numerous times before. Whenever you sign something with these record labels, you need to have a lawyer. I cannot be more emphatic when I say that. You have to have an attorney present to see what's going on. George Clinton here in this case, now I don't see where he had an attorney, at least he didn't mention it. He probably had one there, we don't know. But he did mention that they forged his name to get ownership and fraudulently acquire ownership of his catalog via the forgeries and signature. Again, these are all allegations. Of course, Richard Bush, the lawyer for the defendant, is denying everything. So this is crazy. But this is an interesting suit. This suit was filed March 11th, so 2025. You know, so it's just getting started. We will see what happened. It's important to also note that that being that Armin Boladian, as well as Bridgeport Music, which I think is owned by Armin Boladian. I think he is the actual owner and creator of that corporation. He has, in the past, has brought several copyright lawsuits based on them using George Clinton music that he says that he legally has ownership to. Notably, he sued NWA, Jay-Z, Public Enemy. In fact, there was a big case called Bridgeport Music versus Dimension Fields. Bridgeport Music, of course, is Armin Boladian's corporation. I think he's the owner of it, but he's definitely one of the defendants here, this business entity. They sued Dimension Films back in 2005, where they accused the film of using a two-second music clip from George Clinton's song. Let me see if I can get the name of the song here. It was a 2-second clip of the song called Get Off Your Ass and Jam. That was from the 1975 Funkadelic track. I don't have the name of the album here, but it was a track that they did. The song called Get Off Your Ass and Jam. And basically the case centered around a 1990 NWA track called 100 Miles and Running, where they sampled a 2-second song and they put it in one of the movies that Dimension Films was producing. I think the name of that movie is I Got the Hook Up. I'm not for sure, but somebody can fact check that. But nonetheless, in that film, Dimension Films was the executive producer of that film, and they put it out and distributed it. And Bridgeport Music said, hey man, you guys took 2-second clip. Now, initially the law had a thing called de minimis doctrine, to where if it's so minimal, basically if it's so minimal, it's not copyright violation. In fact, in that lawsuit that Bridgeport brought against Dimension Films, the initial federal judge, that's the actual law he used, and said, no, there's no copyright infringement. But of course, Bridgeport appealed that decision, and when he appealed it to the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Sixth Circuit, the U.S. Court of Appeals said, nope, I don't care how minimal it is. If someone has a copyright, then you need to get a license or permission from the actual owner, or don't use it. That is their law. That brought a screeching halt to several people. Now, and it's also worth noting that in those lawsuits to all those people I just named, not just Dimension Films, but a lot of those other people got a settlement too as well. It's reported that he was settled for about $4 million against a lot of these artists. I mean, if you look it up, it's so many artists that he sued for copyrighting George Clinton music. But nonetheless, this is what's happening right now. George Clinton is fighting right now in this lawsuit that I just showed you to get his ownership back. What do you guys think, man? You know, you think sampling should be have a more of a de minimis approach? Or do you think that sampling should be allowed? Or do you think, hey, you know what? No, Attorney Jeff, if they want to use someone's they want to use someone's intellectual property, then they need to get a license and get permission from the actual owner of said property. I mean, do you have that approach? Do you have the court's approach? What do you think? Do you think George Clinton will come out on top of this with this case? I mean, it's been going on for decades, even though he just filed this particular one March 11th, which was a couple of days ago. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, and share. And remember, you know, nothing in here is construed to be legal advice, but it is something that we can discuss. So let me know in the comments below. And for any bookings, for if you're in entertainment, if you're an entertainer, if you're an athlete, if you're an influencer, remember, you can always book me through the links on the page. But anyway, it's your brother, Attorney Jeff. And let's be following this case, and we'll link back up and we'll talk about this case in the future to see how it goes.